What's going on, guys? My name's Jake and this is Drive New Hampshire, and today we're going to see if what's under this car cover is going to start up for us. If you're familiar with the channel and you've been here for a long time, then the little specks of blue and the license plate frame on the back are going to completely give away what's under this car cover. But if you're new to the channel, let me show you what this is. Now this is my 1981 Z28 Camaro that I've owned since I was 15 years old. And if I were a 30 or 40-year-old guy, that would mean a lot. But I purchased this car 6 years ago in hopes of painting it and restoring it with my dad. If you watched my first ever YouTube video where I have the hair of Donald Trump and I am about as stiff as a you-know-what on camera.
Bing, bing.
You are fake news.
By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to watch that guy speak.
Then you would have heard me tell the whole story about this car, what I did to it, and what my hopes and goals were with it. But recently the car got put on the back burner. Now, last year I only got around to making one video with this car, and that was of me changing out the rear air shocks that are right here with some racing shocks. Now, the idea of this was to eliminate the sag I was getting with those shocks, which was pushing my tires into my fenders whenever I accelerated. Now, in the 70s and 80s, it was really cool to take your air shocks, inflate them with air, and jack up the back of a car. But this is 2019, I wasn't really a fan of that. I like a nice, level ride, if not sitting a little bit lower. So I went online and bought some fully adjustable racing shocks. These weren't really that much money. I'll include a link to them down in the description so you can check them out for yourself, but I didn't have the money to afford coilovers. So at the beginning of car season last year, I bought myself 4 new tires. I really needed them. I hadn't changed them since I got them. Back tires were getting a little bit bald. No idea why. So I bought 4 brand new tires, put in my race shocks, and ended up running into another problem. I was having the same issue before. My tires were hitting the fenders. And on the first test drive, I almost completely destroyed my brand new tires I just put in the back. Then a problem came up with the shocks. Where the air shocks, you adjusted their firmness while also adjusting their height. These ones were on fully stiff to avoid any sink, but it put the car back down to its factory ride height, and it actually put it down a little bit lower. Now, I didn't have the money to replace the tires that I just put on the car, so the car ended up sitting. I didn't have the money to go put thinner tires on the back, because I do have a little bit wider than factory in the rear, so unfortunately the car sat for most of the car season. So now I'm going to go find the battery for this thing, we'll throw it in and listen to her run for the first time in 4 or 5 months. Alright, that stuff's on there tight enough. Let's see if she fires up. So, in the style of Stradman, here's a cold, very cold startup of a 1981 Z28 Camaro with a 355 cubic inch V8.
No, start, come on.
Not good. She sucks ass. After those revolting sounding revs, it's safe to say this thing is going to need a tune-up. I heard a pretty big backfire at one point. The idle was a little rough. It could probably use some new plugs and wires. And if you heard when I was revving it, the revs would stay really high at some points unless I clicked down on the gas pedal again. That tells you that one of the return springs for the carburetor is definitely a little weak, or else something in the linkage is a little gummed up. That, of course, is all easy stuff to deal with. So, now what are my goals with this car for the car season? I'm not exactly sure at this point. The main problem with this car is it had air conditioning from the factory, but it doesn't have any of the stuff in it right now. Now, to get that stuff and install it, could be a little bit of money. And the vintage air system is somewhere around $900 to $1,400 or something like that. I was looking the other day. So it makes this car a little bit uncomfortable to drive in very, very hot days. Having a big V8 up front with not much protection in the firewall doesn't help either. Now, as for aesthetics, not sure yet. I've always liked the idea and the look of the Trans Am race cars of the past. Maybe I could do some sort of livery with that. And I've also thrown around the ideas of removing my interior and putting in just 2 front racing seats. That's a problem because I spent a lot of money on redoing that interior back to factory spec, so it'd be kind of stupid for me to throw all that stuff out. I wouldn't throw it out, but put it away when I have a really nice interior right now. Now, all the ideas and stuff I have about this car are still pending. It's all up in the air, and it'll depend on how much money I have during car season and how much free time I have. But what I'm not unsure about is how much content I'll be making with this car. This car doesn't deserve to sit in here. I love it very much. And I plan on making a lot more content with it this year. If you're around this area, I'm sure you'll see it around. I plan to put some miles on it, that's for sure. So, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to browse the channel and subscribe if you haven't. I will see you in the next video. Happy motoring. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some catching up to do.